Language identified. Critter speak. Activating Fairlandian translator matrix.
Why did that human almost step on me? It's the curse. The curse of Baba Laga. Dun dun dun. What's that then? Is when humans carry so much stuff that they can barely walk. They go this away, and then that away, straight into a wall, then zap. Back many steps, like magic. Oh. Yes, if they be critters like us, or leave all the ghostly, haunted pirate loot shinies in mysterious caves instead of wearing all of them, they'd walk much straighter. Evil pirate shinies? And this why we teach counterspell cures to everybody. Yay, magicking, wizarding spell paws. I don't know counter spell at all. You shall. Just read the tips to defeating Baba Laga at fantasyfairsl.wordpress.com. Yay! I can read! I can read! Magic already working. And let's see here. That's a good idea. Okay, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Is intense lag making you tense? Are you afraid of accidentally stepping on small critters?
Well, you should be.
Lag-induced missteps can be fatal. Free yourself of the curse of Baba Laga. Be the savior of critter kind. And avoid rubber banding debuffs. Learn more at
fantasyfairsl.wordpress.com/low-lag.
Transforming into a critter completely optional. Complimentary carrots not included.
Rising up to fight another day. The challenger stands in the way. Though the road is long, our faith will keep us strong. Against the wind, His flame shall never fade. In the relay for life, we'll never forget the ones we've lost for sure. Here's to the brave ones who continue to endure. Your lives we celebrate, we dedicate, 'cause there is no finish line till we find a cure. So we're walking for you, brother, running for you, sister, fighting back with every step we take. Together we belong, soldiers marching on, and we won't slow down until we win this fight. 'Cause it's one dream, one team in the relay for life. Long, our faith will keep us strong. Against the wind, this flame shall never fade. I'm walking for you, brother, running for you, sister, fighting back with every step I take. Together we belong.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Relay Wrap, the T1 radio talk show for and about the American Cancer Society and Second Life. Today we travel to Sambobi, one of the 22 regions summoned by Fairlands Junction to make up the 15th Fantasy Fair. We're also dual streaming on Fantasy Fair Radio, so hello everybody, all our Fairlander friends. I am Trader Whiplash, and as always, I am joined by Sandy Slate-Loxingley. The Fantasy Fair is dedicated to supporting the global outreach mission of the American Cancer Society and has assisted in funding the Hope Hostel Project in Kenyatta National Hospital in Nairobi, and more recently, the Beacon Initiative of the Society. We're here to talk about that. And we have four very special guests joining us today who are going to talk about both global and Fantasy Fair.
Yes. Up first, we have Xander Green. Xander is a founder and former director of Fantasy Fair. He is also the producer of Fantasy Fair Radio. While no longer active in the day-to-day Second Life like Junction, the fair regions and whirlwinds, he rises up from the mist each spring to help fight the unweaver. And then we have...
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Aoife Lorefield joined Fantasy Fair's Literary Festival in 2015, its first year, and never left, becoming more involved each year since. She has read her own work, the works of other writers, and offered workshops on a variety of topics, hosted presentations, been a region tour leader and DJ. She was the creator of the LitFest HUD, and in 2022 was the LitFest lead organizer. This year, Aoife joined the staff of the newly created Fairlands Media, whose goals are to create original multimedia content that celebrates the stories of the Fairlands, and to document the work of the artists, builders, storytellers, performers, and communities who bring them to life.
Joining us via Discord today from the American Cancer Society, we welcome back an old friend, Christy McComb, Managing Director, Global Capacity Development and Patient Support. We also have a very special guest, the President and Founder of Instituto Oncogia, a Beacon Initiative pilot partner from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Please welcome Luciana Holtz. Luciana, we're going to start with you.
Okay, Trader.
Welcome to the Fairlands.
Good night. Thank you. Here in São Paulo, we are at 7:30 at night, so great pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today about Oncogia in our work with the American Cancer Society's Beacon Initiative. Thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and about Oncogia. I know you started it in 2006, was it?
2009. But I'm Luciana. I'm the founder and president of Oncogia, but I'm a psychologist with a specialization in psycho-oncology and bioethics. And when I was practicing, I realized the importance of quality information for patients. With this perspective, I launched the Oncogia website, an informational reference website, and after 6 years, this work led to the creation of Oncogia NGO. Oncogia is a cancer patient advocacy organization in Brazil that I founded in 2009 with the support from fellow doctors and breast cancer patients volunteers. Trader, do you think are there any Brazilians with us today?
I'm sorry?
Do you think, are there any Brazilians listeners?
I think we have a few Brazilians listening in, and we have quite a large Brazilian contingent who participate in Relay for Life.
Yeah, I would like you know the Brazilians know about the Oncogia, that Oncogia is also a resource for them. So then, just like the American Cancer Society has information available on their website, we also have a lot of quality information about cancer for patients and caregivers available all in Portuguese. So this website is what we call our Oncogia portal. And we also share a lot of quality information in our social media pages, host many virtual events. So I really would like to invite the Brazilians to know more about. In addition to the American Cancer Society, we also have Oncoguia in Portuguese. And so telling a little bit more about Oncoguia, we seek to support, inform, and defend patient rights by increasing access to quality information, educating the community, providing supports to empower patients, and influence policies. Our mission is to strengthen, encourage, and guide people living with cancer to face their challenges in the best way possible.
What's it like living with cancer in Brazil?
Yeah, Trader, unfortunately, like many places in the world, in Brazil we also have a lot of challenges with access to services and care. According to estimates from the Brazilian National Cancer Institute, in 2023, this year, there will be more than 704,000 new cases of cancer in our country. And remember that 75% of our population uses the Brazilian public health system, our SUS, for their healthcare services. SUS offers breast and cervical early detection screening, diagnosis process and treatment for cancers, but it is an overburdened and fragmented system. Patients have long time waitings to schedule appointments and receive test results. This means that cancer patients are diagnosed late. Approximately half of those diagnosed already are in advanced stage or have metastasis. This is very serious because it impacts the quality of life of the patient, and it does not need to be this way. So in 2020 we began work to start a lay navigation program that can help address some of these barriers. We believe that regardless of income, race and ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, disability, or where they live, all patients and caregivers facing a cancer diagnosis should receive support, quality information, and patient-centered lay navigation services in order to increase quality of life and improve health outcomes.
Luciana, it sounds like the same situation everywhere, where there's a large inequity, except it's far more exaggerated in Brazil. There is, Sandy, I know here we have the same thing with the same types of situations, correct?
Yes, we do. We have, go ahead.
No, not for you, Sandy.
It's an ongoing battle with the inequities between people who don't have insurance at all, or who are limited on access of going to the doctor.
How hard is access, how difficult is access to care in Brazil?
Oh, I think there are important barriers, Trader, but the patient are waiting all the time. The patient are waiting to see a doctor, waiting to do the biopsy, waiting to start the treatment. And can you believe we have a law of the 60 days here? And the law oblige the public service to start the treatment after 60 days of the biopsy. But, of course, this didn't happen. But helps a lot to discuss and to publicize the problem. But we also have difficult problems related to the access to new treatments. important inequality when we saw the patients from the private in comparing with the public system. Completely different treatments available, and of course the results.
Is it capacity in the healthcare system, or is there something more to it?
I think management, financing, and capacity.
How has Beacon helped with the situation there in Brazil, particularly for Oncología, but overall?
Oh, thank you for this question. In 2022, Trader, we were selected as a formal pilot organization for the American Cancer Society's Beacon initiative. For us, it was a great opportunity to learn more from the global community about patient navigation. We were very lucky that the pilot began at the same time we were creating our materials for our lay navigation program with the ACS resources community and technical assistance. We have learned a lot. We used the research available to create indicators that will help us show the impact of our program. We also saw examples of patient forms, barriers that we used to create our own forms for our program. These were all very helpful for us. It has also been great to learn about the experience of other programs around the world. While Brazil has a very unique challenges, we can all learn from each other. We are very, very grateful for this opportunity. ACS has also created educational materials for patients and caregivers. We have read all these materials in English, and they are so clear and easy to understand. These materials will also be translated into Portuguese this year, and we are so excited to use them. They will help many of our patients.
Xander, Aoife, do you have, or Christy, did anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask of Luciana?
Christy?
I think we'll let Christy take that one for sure.
Sure. Well, I'm so happy to be here again with all of you and to be here particularly with Luciana, who is a good friend from a faraway place, and so happy to be working with Oncología. But I wanted to point out the materials that she just mentioned are the materials that the Second Life community, or the Fantasy Fair community, helped us to produce last year. If you remember, it actually was the resources raised in 2021 that enabled us to be able to produce these global cancer education materials for patients and caregivers that we wanted to include in the Beacon Initiative Toolkit. And we presented those alongside the pilot of the other resources. And as you just heard her say, and it was what we expected, is that yes, these are great, we want them, but we also need them in other languages besides English. So we are currently in the process of translating them into other languages. And that would not have been possible without the support of the Fantasy Fair community. So I'm hoping, we can make some linkages across time with what your support enables us to do at the American Cancer Society that enables us to support our partners on the ground to do, continue to do really important work. But yeah, Oncología is doing amazing work. Brazil needs an Oncología fighting for its patients and delivering navigation services and really becoming that navigation leader in the country that can help other organizations and health facilities to take up the mantle of patient navigation. So happy to be here. And I also want to point out today is a really important day. Today is the last day of the 15-month formal pilot of the Beacon Initiative. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't have picked a better time to have this interview.
Oh, fantastic to know all this information, Christy. Thank you.
Well, I think, the fact that you can share that information with us and that, Luciana, you're here with us today. I know that there's somebody standing over there. Elaine is probably just making notes like, look what we could do. She's going to be doing a lot more fundraising. Rosanna, we turn her loose, right?
That's all it takes. You just have to have a good crowd and a lane and a donation kiosk, and then stand back and watch the magic happen.
Luciana, is there any other message you'd like to send to our Fairlanders and these wonderful people who support American Cancer Society and Beacon and Uncle Gia?
Oh, Trader, no, for me it's a fantastic opportunity to be here. I think only thank you. We've learned so much. This is important to let all the people know. Of course, we are also seeing a lot of many new challenges, but we will keep doing all the best for our patients, and we hope to keep close to American Cancer Society, and for us is a unique partnership. So thank you.
One last question. What does the future hold for Oncología? Where do you see your institute in another year and another 5 years?
Trader, for this year, it's being a special year because we come back to the street. I'm using to say the Oncología is on the street again, because during the last years we were virtual. Of course, because of the pandemic, but we know that because we are inside the hospitals working with so close of the patients and eye by eye, I think a lot of things will change. So I think for now it is, but we know that we've been learning a lot, and the patient know really need us a lot. Let's see what's going to happen.
Thank you for taking the time to spend with us, and don't go anywhere because I'm sure we'll have some other moments to speak with you. But I wanted to go back to Christy. You mentioned that the program is coming to a close today. What can you tell us about the program, and where does Beacon go next?
Sure. Well, yeah, so as I said, today is the end of the 15-month pilot. So we're not going away, right? We're just closing out this period where we have been testing kind of the design of the program that we started right before the Fantasy Fair last year. And we were lucky to have some of you attend our initial launch, and I hope you'll come to our celebration in a couple of weeks. But, just to say, we invited 10 organizations, including Oncología, from 8 countries, and I'm happy to say that all have remained actively engaged in the initiative over the last 15 months. During that time frame, we delivered 26 virtual learning events. As you know, we have an online toolkit. We had over 2,500 individual sessions that people from these various countries were tuning in to learn information and download resources that they could build their own programs with. We've had about almost 170 unique individuals coming to our events. So we've been steadily building this community over the last 15 months, asking them a lot of feedback on whether, what we're providing is working, and are you enjoying connecting with folks around the world? And I think what we've demonstrated is that people do want to talk to folks even from other regions. It's not just about, Latin America or Africa or the Middle East. Folks can learn from each other because these challenges of cancer are in many ways universal. Sure, health systems might be a little bit different here and there, but really we all know, because we've all been through some type of a personal experience with cancer, just how complex the treatment journey is. So I think what we set out to do, we have demonstrated that it can work. And I was thinking of a quote from a poster that I had on my wall as a kid. That was, the start of something new brings the hope of something great. Anything is possible. And certainly that's how we felt 15 months ago. And we feel very confident now that we are on the right track to bring folks together to really, I think one of the things we were trying to solve for is, how do we kind of de-Americanize the patient navigation experience, which is quite mature. It's been going on for 30 years. started really by the American Cancer Society through Dr. Harold Freeman 30 years ago, but expanded, and it's kind of a known thing, right? But how do we bring it to new places and bring people together to learn and to not take 30 years to figure out how to make it work in that setting? So I think we're well on our way. Our goal this year is to invite more organizations, more countries into our virtual community, accessing our resources freely, and again, continuing to make those connections through time. So that's really, where we're going with this. So it's not ending. And I will say one other thing that I want to point out. Again, being really transparent about the use of the resources that you've all graciously, raised for us and provided for us. The funds that you raised in 2022 and the funds that you're raising now, our intention is to use those to provide some seed funding to our formal pilot organizations through a competitive grant process. Those who are ready to launch a program, we will be in the coming months asking them to, prepare, share their program design with us. What are they trying to achieve? What resources have they garnered on their own? Where do they have gaps? And how can we help fill those? And so, we've been squirreling away is not the right word, but really protecting those resources. And we're so excited to see what you raise, in this Fantasy Fair, and to see what then we can put out for our partners to really, again, get programs started if they haven't started, and then start demonstrating outcomes so we can continue to make that case for navigation as a super important patient-centered care model, and demonstrate in new places that it can work. So we're so excited. This is an exciting year for us. And again, we just see this growing and growing over time. That's our future.
The growth potential for your organization, for this aspect of the Beacon Initiative is just mind-boggling when you consider how much need there is in our world today. We have focused here for many of us, many of the fundraisers here, on tangible aspects of the tangible benefits realized by our fundraising. You've cited so many of those right now that helps to provide the goals we need for our fundraisers.
Yeah.
What kind
and
of...
also we mentioned the languages, every language. That's about, for us, it's between 6,000 and 8,000 to translate these materials into a new language. So, that just gives you a ballpark of what we're trying to do. And we're trying to get those major global languages developed. And we get faster at doing that process. And everywhere we go, everybody we talk to, they're just like, I love these, but can we have them in another language? So we understand that, right? Because the world doesn't always work in only English.
Well, again, that's something that our relayers thrive on, knowing that if we raise 8,000, that's 320,000 lindens. That is going to provide another translation for Beacon. And just as when we look at 16,500 lindens provides a night at Hope Lodge, having this kind of knowledge is so important to our fundraisers and to our donors. They like to know what they're doing, and having you explain that is just wonderful. We're in a post-pandemic world now. Is Beacon going to... You started when we were all virtual. And let's face it, it was a difficult time for the last 3 years. We're in a post-pandemic world. Can we expect to see Beacon grow exponentially now, or are you just on a steady course?
Well, I think, the good news is because our resources, we are working smarter, right? Making these resources attractive, downloadable. Anybody can use them on different devices and access what they need. So we expect the majority of our partners will continue to access our resources virtually, and that, doesn't have a huge cost to us, except, of course, if we were to add more content. For instance, we know that our partners want, training content on very specific topics that their navigators might be interested in, like nutrition and cancer, or how to run an effective patient support group, for instance. So those are things, we have in our minds, what we'd like to build in the future. The grants I mentioned, those do require resources to be able to provide those. But really the community building and the learning resources, those, that's off to, the toolkit is built so they can go in at any time and take what they need. And again, freely available to anyone. And then I'll say, whether one question is, will you, like we have a long-standing relationship in Kenya and Uganda. We just went back in January, which was so meaningful to us to see this work happening on the ground, especially Uganda that launched a program at the beginning of the pandemic that we had not seen in action. And then going back to Kenya, where they are just flying high and getting better and better every year. So we love that opportunity to engage with our partners from time to time on the ground. And that's also a resources permitting question. But, that's not going to be the main way that we work because we are anxious to get these resources out there and supporting our partners. And so we're always looking for ways to make that happen as much as we can in this virtual space. But, who knows for the future? We just want to get the word out there that this exists. And so we explore that through our various professional networks and get this moving with more partners. But now we have, 10 partners in new parts of the world that 2 years ago we weren't working with, and they are also telling the story of Beacon. So I'm not worried about finding new organizations and new health facilities that want to sign up and take part in this.
You brought up Kenya. Can you give us an update on the Hope Hostel in Kenyatta National?
Yeah, I'm happy to report. If you remember, the last couple of years, the Hope Hostel has been stalled because of the impact of COVID. But towards the end of last year, we were able to right-size the facility, the drawings, the design to match the resources that had been raised before the pandemic. And we are currently in the process of signing the legal agreement between the American Cancer Society and Kenyatta National Hospital with the hope that we will be able to, and by we, I mean, of course, our partners at Kenyatta, to be able to break ground on the facility later this year. So I'm so happy to report that to you all because you all raised so many resources to bring that facility to life, and it has been a long journey to get to this point. And I'll just say we expect that once it breaks ground, we're looking at a 24-month construction time horizon. So still a ways away from opening doors, but much closer than we ever have been before. And I just, again, want to thank this community so much. You've been such a steady support to everything that we're doing in Global, and we couldn't do it without you. So I hope you're happy about that news. I know we are.
Now, there's also a navigation program, and that's actually active currently. That was also funded in part from Second Life.
Yes, and that is still going strong. We're working hard with our partners to try to get the program costs absorbed by the countries themselves, which, Kenyatta National Hospital and the Uganda Cancer Institute are government facilities. They're the top line public health facilities. I'm going to be honest, we're still struggling a bit in Kenya to find the way in for that, long-term budgetary support. So until that time, the American Cancer Society still supports and it's really the cost of positions for navigators. We're working to get that navigation position recognized as an official cadre of health workers, if you will. But I am happy to report that the Uganda Cancer Institute, which is it's a cancer facility, it's a semi-autonomous, structure within the Ministry of Health. They have communicated to us that they are going to be able to absorb most of the costs of running the program later this year, which is wonderful, right? Because that says we, Uganda, see the impact of this program, and we are going to build this into our national healthcare budget. And what it means is that for the American Cancer Society, it means we can use our dollars to get things going and to demonstrate success. But when we've done that, and if it can be absorbed by our partner countries, then that means our resources can go to help other parts of the world to do something similar. So, we always start with an eye towards long-term sustainability, but we know that to get things going, you have to make early investments. It's what we do in research, in the United States, and we've produced something like, I'm going to get the number wrong, but it's close to 50 Nobel Prize-winning researchers in cancer. So we're doing the same thing, bringing innovation to the global cancer space and really helping to uplift our partners to do amazing work that we know they can do, but they need resources to do it.
Just the news you're bringing here, I know, is going to motivate our fundraisers here, is seeing the impact. Xander, the impact that this fair and this group of people, this community has had on the world. It's
Absolutely
mind-boggling.
It is. It's a global community of relayers, and that's why it was important to us to focus what the fair is doing in terms of fundraising on supporting the American Cancer Society's efforts around the globe, and to be able to sit back here and today and to hear what Luciana and organizations like hers have been able to do over the course of this past year, the pilot phase for Beacon. It's a proud moment, I think, for everybody here in the Fairlands, and a proud moment for relayers, not just in this virtual world, but really around the globe.
So, Xander, what's going on with you? You've been sitting quietly. I know. Oh, you know what? Let's hold off on that. We're going to come back and talk to you. I think Xander wanted to talk to you. Before we go, Christy, Luciana, thank you so much for taking time. Please don't go anywhere. Stay here if you can, and we'll chat more if we have time. But I think Sandy wanted to talk to Aoife Warfield. So, Sandy?
Yes.
You had
Okay, Aoife, welcome to the show. We appreciate you taking the time out to be here with us. And we were looking at when you were talking about the Lit Fest in your bio. We were wondering what first brought you to Fantasy Fair.
Part of what I did when I first came into Second Life was become active in the spoken word community. So there is a network across the world, literally, international network of folks who write poetry, who write fiction, who write essays, and who love to read. So reading their own work, reading other works. And so there are sessions happening every day, all times of day, where you can hear people reading. There's also writing circles, workshops to help people become better writers. And so, of course, learning that Fantasy Fair had as part of its core event groups a literary festival, why wouldn't I want to participate? I am a fantasy fan from, I can't even tell you, from when I was very, very young. So to be able to come to a virtual place like Fantasy Fair every year, meet with people who are as enthusiastic about fundraising for Relay for Life and about fantasy as I am, and share what we do, is a wonderful thing.
Hey. And how has the Unweaver touched your life?
For me, my personal experience with the Unweaver was easily managed, and I kind of hope it will stay that way. But naturally, in the world today, we all have members of our families and close friends who go through the full panoply of diagnosis and treatment and success, and then sometimes setbacks and success again, and all the experiences that go along with facing this particular multifaceted and really difficult experience in our lives.
Now, along with your love for the Lit Fest, you've become involved with Fantasy Fair Media, which is new for 2023. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. One of the interesting things about the pandemic is much of the world discovered what it meant to be virtual. And of course, we here in Second Life already knew that it was pretty fabulous. And one of the things that came forward during these years was the whole idea of a metaverse. Hey, maybe we can create a metaverse.
So again, we here at Second Life are raising our hands saying, we got one. We got this. We know how to do this here. And so one of the goals, one of the aims of Fairlands Media is to say, it's time to take the stories of the fair, to take the people of the fair, the incredible creators and fundraisers and event organizers and sponsors and the fabulous community we have here, and share that with people who are not here. To say, look what we can do. Look what we have done. Isn't this amazing? So it is about showcasing the stories of the fair. We were talking amongst ourselves a little bit before we went on air about the story of this year's quest and past year's quest, and how there is an ongoing mythos to the fair itself, but also the people, the incredibly talented and creative bunch of folks who come together every year in this community to do amazing, groundbreaking work, both in expressing artistically and technically what we can do here, but also creating and celebrating community and supporting each other in the journeys that so many of us must make in dealing with cancer.
Have you had a good response so far for the Fairland Media project?
We are rolling out this year some of our first efforts, and I would say the response has been good. But as we all know, in a pilot year, part of what you're doing is learning. And so we're learning about what's going to work, what is realistic, what is possible in the midst of the fair as we're trying to capture the creative tumult of what goes on. What can we pull off and present? And then also, how do we distribute it? What is it that we must do to present what we do here that we all understand because we do it? What must we provide? How do we frame it? How do we present it so that people outside will be captivated as well? So yes, the initial things that we've brought forward have been well received, and we're also in a pretty steep learning curve about how to bring that forward in the best way possible.
Well, we have a week left with the fair. Is there anything special we should know about? Anything we shouldn't miss?
That's a good question, and I guess I'm going to answer it by highlighting the difference between what Fairlands Media's goals are and what the Fairlands goals are at large.
Okay.
We are not offering independent events, so I can't say to you, sure, come to the Fairlands Media Gala, tomorrow night. What we're doing, our goal is to connect with the world builders who create the regions, literally the folks on the street, the Fairlanders. What's their experience when they come here? To capture the mythos of the Fairlands across the board, but also the lore that the world builders create and use as their inspiration when they build, and then evolve. Because one of the things we're learning from the world builders is they may come in with a story idea, but when they see Fairlanders come and move through their space and perhaps engage in a quest or other interactive activities they offer, the story grows, the story expands. So what we're about is capturing what's already happening.
Now, let's take a look, other than media, you direct the Lit Fest. Is that...
I'm not the director of the entire Lit Fest. I specifically organize the region tours within it, and I'm very active at Lit Fest. Safia Wittershins is the director of the LitFest program overall.
Okay. What can we expect from LitFest in the next week? Anything interesting that's...
Ooh, the next week, yes. Definitely. We have more region tours. We have a special offering, something that I would love to see more of in future, where one of our tours is actually going to be a role play experience in which the World Builder team at Sistrum Synod is going to host the tour as a role play experience in their Fairland. We have a number of readings and presentations left. One of the things that LitFest sponsors is a film fest because, of course, film is an incredibly important medium for telling stories and preserving stories these days. And as people do short films here at the fair, on the ground, right now, and then submit them, at the end of this week, there will be an awards ceremony for what people have been able to achieve. So that's coming up. And to link back to what we've been talking about in terms of the mythos of the fair, one of the events that we do towards the end of the fair every year is host a roundtable that is called the Mythos of the Fairlands. And Xander will be there for that, and Elizabeth, and we may have a new guest, and I'll be hosting that. We have at the Literary Festival a special guest this year. We often try to do that. A writer of animal stories. Her name is Anne Louise Avery. And she is in world, not perhaps right this instant, but we created an avatar for her. She's already done an interview. In this coming week, she'll be doing a reading, and then we will host a gala, a party in her honor. I hope I am not forgetting any big highlights, but those are the kinds of things that you will see any day of the week at LitFest. And of course, everyone listening here is invited.
And where can people find out more information, such as starting points, landmarks, etc.?
Sure. The place for all information related to the fair is our website, fantasyfairsl.wordpress.com. And if you look under the Events tab along the top row of that website, there will be a drop-down menu, and one of the choices will be LitFest. And that will link into key sub-web pages, for example, for the tours and for our special guest this year. Also on the Fantasy Fair website, you will find calendars. There is one big overall calendar, and then the different areas like LitFest and the performances and the big fundraising events like the formal ball and the jail and bails and things like that will all be listed there. So honestly, anything you want to know about Fantasy Fair, fantasyfairsl.wordpress.com.
Thank you so much, Aoife. Sandy, do you have anything else?
Not right now, but maybe something will come to mind.
Okay.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. We're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back in a minute, and we're going to find out where Xander's been hiding for the last year.
Perhaps our enchanted worlds are but the dreams of some distant realm where magic is harder to see, quicker to fade, and immeasurably more precious for it. If so, the doorway from their world to ours is surely opened by the most powerful of incantations. Believe. From Reflections by the Bard Queen of the Fairlands.
On April 20th, the 15th age of the fair begins. Fantasy Fair 2023, a Relay for Life event. 18 days of shopping with more than 350 of the best fantasy merchants in the virtual world ready to showcase their latest magical creations. 18 days of dance and particle performances, role-play sessions, literary and film festival events, the Fairlands Quest, the Fantasy Art Gallery, and the most epic DJ parties in the many worlds. It all comes to life on 22 regions, created by the visionary artists behind the most imaginative sites in the SL Destination Guide. Join us from April 20th to May 7th. Fantasy Fair 2023. Believe, and together we can build a world without cancer. For more information, visit the fair online at fantasyfairsl.wordpress.com.
And we are back at Fantasy Fair on Relay Rap. And right now it's time to have a little chat with Xander Green. Xander, of course, the founder of Fantasy Fair. Xander, 15 years.
Unbelievable, 15 years. I stood around here last night just looking at the end of a very big, boisterous event, and everybody was having a great time. And I kind of cammed back and looked at these 22 regions, and really the first chance I've had to kind of catch a breath and look back at it all. And as I was looking at the 22 amazing worlds of this event this year, suddenly my mind starts, casting back over 15 years of these regions and these folks, and I went immediately back to this might be a week into the first fair, and Ember Farina said to me, it's going well, everybody seems to be having a good time, and I said, yeah, it's great, but it's already so big, Ember, and we're I haven't slept in 2 days, and you haven't slept in a week, I know, and how in the world is this sustainable? How are we going to do this? And Ember Farina said to me, yeah, this is hard. This is going to be a hard one. And next year, be tough too. But she said, what's going to happen is that over time, the people who we need are going to arrive on these shores. And, one by one, they're going to say, let me take this part, on so you don't have to. And I've got an idea for something wonderful that we could add, and let me do that for this event. And I remember thinking at the time, it's like, wow, this is like a real fantasy story. And she's just uttered some kind of prophecy that, this great tectonic, magical thing is going to occur. And, Trader, it was not even, the first fair wasn't even over. And we already started seeing that prophecy was going to come true. And that's what every year since then has been, is one by one, these folks show up, and they carry it to a height that I know for a fact I can speak for Ember and Lauren Thibault when I say that what it is now is nothing like we could have possibly imagined 15 years ago. And it's because of this extraordinary community of people. 1,100 people comprise the staff of this year's Fantasy Fair. That's up 300 people from last year alone. So if anybody ever wants to know, how is this possible? Well, it takes 1,100 highly committed, passionate, dedicated, talented relayers who are willing to step up and say, I can't cure cancer, but I can bring my talent, my passion, my creativity to this event, and I can help to raise the money that supports people who are out there on the front lines, working on the research, providing the support and the services that cancer survivors and their caregivers desperately need around the world. It's a global problem. It requires a global solution. And that's what Relay for Life is. That's what the fair is. And that's what I see as I look back over these 15 years, is the fruits of all of that labor really coming to the fore. And especially getting to hear from Luciana today. Wow. I mean, I was there at the Beacon Pilot Phase launch conference. It was a Zoom conference that was held. And Christy was there and sort of said, these are our goals. This is what we want to try to accomplish this year. And bless her, she even acknowledged that the Fantasy Fair community had provided funds that, in a big way helped to make that launch possible. And that was a real proud moment for me. And I hope for all Fairlanders and all relayers. And then to hear from Luciana, one of 10 organizations around the world who are literally taking the fight to the unweaver every single day. That's another moment where I hope everybody here can just sit back and say, wow, I helped to make that happen. You did, and you've done things that are so extraordinary that it's almost hard to get your head around it. And we help people whose names we're never going to know, whose faces we're never going to see, but they get to have a little easier time walking their cancer journey because we care, because they know we're here and doing what we can to make that journey just a little bit easier for them.
Because we're here for them. The central core of the mythos of the Fairlands is that junction calls the worlds together each year. Yeah. That extends to the 1,100 people on staff. That extends to Luciana being here today. It is Junction brought these people here today so they could share their stories and help.
That's exactly right. The Fairlands, Alia Baroque once said to me, Fairlands are not made of mesh and scripts and textures and prims. He said Fairlands are made of Fairlanders, and that's it. What Junction really functions as a metaphor on behalf of is that creative collective will, this creative urge that we all have to do something positive and to put it to work in a positive way. That's really, when we say that Junction abides and draws these worlds to be out of the mists each year, what we're really saying is that we each answer that call ourselves, and that's how all the rest of it comes to the fore.
So how have you spent your past year since your election to the Hall of Fame last July or June?
It's a great thing to be able to put your feet up and sit back and watch fresh, young, strong backs stand up and say, let me carry some of this burden. And it's freed me up to focus on really what I came to Second Life to do in the first place, which is to just extend what my life has always been about, which is telling stories in one form or another: theater, film, television, animation, radio. I'll stand on a street corner and tell stories if somebody will listen. And that's what really drew me into Second Life in the beginning. And of course, when you're starting something as large as the Faire, that's a luxury to get to focus on that. And I've always had people like Aoife and the other incredible organizers of things like our literary festival who are willing to take on those challenges and free me up to make sure that trains stay on tracks and schedules are maintained. But, I've got Ketsui Naidu, who stepped up last year and basically said to me, you've earned a break. You've earned a chance to focus on the things that your passionate and creative heart is all about, and let me do some of these administrative tasks for you. So, thank the good Lord, thank Junction for the fact that someone like Ketsui comes around and is willing to do that, so that I can then take a bit of a break and step back and really look at the big picture. And along with Aoife and Katori Mistwalker, this past year has been us really just having the time to just dream and imagine what we can do together. Aoife was so spot on when she said earlier, the time has come for us to be able to share this incredible story with the wider world. We don't have to draw people into Second Life. We just have to share the story of what's going on here with them. And I think as we do so, we're going to find a new ocean of support waiting to fall into place. So that just really is a very exciting time. And this has been a really incredible year. People who know me also know that I was a caregiver for my father who had cancer. I've been a live-in caregiver for my mom for many years now. That's the caregivers know that's a tough job. That's a hard road to walk too. But this past year has a lot of really positive things have happened. And as I look around and see these 1,100 people, and then I don't even know how many people have come and visit. Last year it was 30,000 visitors to the Faire. I expect we'll see more than that by the end of this year. And just being able to sit back and smile and listen to great things happening and dream and imagine about what we could yet accomplish together. This has been a great year, and this has been a really extraordinary 10 days of this Faire so far with, 8 more days to go.
Yeah, Christy, I'm going to ask you to comment on this too, but I have a number to ask you about. 17, number 17, the 17th largest relay team.
Oh,
This 1,100 member team in the world.
Yeah.
What does that
Yeah,
mean?
I don't know. I mean, do any other relays come close? And certainly 30,000 people? I don't know that any, live relay on the ground there has 30,000 people attending. It's kind of unfathomable.
And that's just
That's
one
just the
event.
fair. Yeah, that's just the fair.
Right, that's-
Exactly.
I know
yeah.
this is something that leads up to even something bigger, right? And
Even
it happens
bigger.
throughout the year. I've been trying to explain this also to my colleagues to just appreciate what this is,
Well, I
I don't
don't
know to
know,
get your head around.
Yes.
Christy, I don't know if you realize that since the relay started here in Virtual Worlds in 2005, as of about 3 weeks ago, we raised our $5 millionth.
I think you and I were online when that happened. That was a big moment.
Just,
No, it's
sure was.
remarkable. It is truly remarkable.
but
And this is the thing that is the number is awesome. And I tell you that what really makes me sing is that knowing that in addition to the technical things that make this relay such a unique kind of relay, it's the fact that I get to relay with people in Brazil and
Exactly.
in Italy and in Japan and in Australia and in the UK and Canada and throughout Central and South America. And it's hard to imagine that any other relay event on Earth has anywhere near the kind of a global camaraderie that we're able to bring to what we do here in Second Life.
Right. I think
I was going to say it truly is a global community, and you appreciate that probably even more so, Christy, than most of us when you realize.
Well, it's a roadmap for the rest of us to follow, right? And I think that's what, we're able to do now with Beacon in a way that I was, maybe not as eloquently expressing it, but there's one thing to be able to go and see the work happening, but there's another thing to be on a call and have within 5 minutes people from 10 different countries come online and share their experiences. We just weren't doing that, to this degree pre-COVID, and it's we walk away always inspired by the conversations that we have with our partners, and I know they do as well, and learning from each other, and I just think that's the future.
And if you look at what Beacon has accomplished this year, I was just thinking, listening to Luciana talking earlier, I forget who said it. Someone said you can move the world with an idea, but you have to think of it first. That's what the people who founded the American Cancer Society did 100 years ago. That's what Gordy Klatt did when he started Relay for Life. It's what
Relay.
Dr. Freeman did when he pioneered the patient navigation approach to care for cancer survivors. And it's what Luciana Holtz did in founding her cancer information portal in Brazil. So those are ideas that have literally changed the world.
And
And
it's what-
relayers
what
are a
they-
part of that process.
What Jade Lilly did right here in Second Life
Absolutely.
Yeah,
when she
Absolutely.
founded the first
and I would love
relay in
to
2000.
acknowledge Dr. Harold Freeman, who, Xander, you were on the call with him last year, and I know he blew us all away. He just turned 90 in March.
Wow.
And we shared with him, obviously at the time what we were doing with Beacon. We have another partner who is actually established. It's going to happen next month. It's the first Latin America Congress on patient navigation. He is doing a keynote speech, and he just is blown away that his one idea from, the late 80s in Harlem Hospital has not only transformed healthcare in the United States, is now reaching these far corners of the globe. So you're right. It's these people, you have to have that idea, and you have to believe in it, and you have to make it work, and then, see where it goes. And I think we have so many examples of that today, including this Fantasy Fair event that is just every year it gets more and more fabulous, more connected, bringing more people into the fold. And I hope we'll achieve a fraction of that with Beacon, but I feel good about it. I think we're going lots of places with it.
Well,
I think so too.
I want to thank all of you. This has been a wonderful hour. I know Luciana had to leave, but I want to thank Luciana Holtz from Instituto Oncoguia in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Christy, it's always wonderful to chat with you and to hear what's going on with Beacon and with the global initiatives of the American Cancer Society. Aoife Lorfield, thank you for taking time today. It's our pleasure to have shared this time with you and to have learned about LitFest and Fantasy Fair Media. Xander, as always, it's just an absolute pleasure to spend any time with you.
We appreciate the Relay Wrap team coming out and helping us to carry this story further and further every day. I just want to add one thing at the end. It's just ultimately what the Fantasy Fair community, what this event is about, is it is a celebration of the power of stories. And that is also a critical part of what Relay for Life is about, too. We hear stories, some of them break our hearts, and some of them just makes you want to stand up and cheer. And I hope that if you take a chance to look at the themes of the content that's already starting to appear on the new fairlandsmedia.wordpress.com website, looking at the machinima projects that we've got launched there. Episode 3 of Harlan Quinn and the Omega Hex is now there and streaming. We've also got Aoife's amazing program called Fairlands in Focus, where she's talking with world builders about their process as creators, as designers, what that process means. And then I've got Katora Mistwalker, who's I just adore this new segment we're airing called Elf on the Street. She's out there with a virtual microphone, talking with Fairlanders, experiencing the fair, and sharing that wonder of what it is to be out here in the fair every single day. And if you look at the themes, I think, of all of that content, what you're going to find is that it's the same themes that you find at the heart of Relay for Life. And what are those? Well, it's the rallying cry of the Bardic Order of the Fairlands. It's celebrate, it's remember, and it is fight back. And that's what the Fairlands are all about. We are a 3-week-long fight back ceremony.
Xander,
And we couldn't do it without you.
We couldn't do it. Xander, Aoife, Christy.
Thanks for having me.
Luciana, thank you all for joining us. Sandy, we didn't get a chance to do global or to do mission today, but this seems like the biggest mission moment we've had all year for a full hour.
I think so. I think we touched on all the high points, definitely.
Well, I want to thank everybody. I also want to thank Ren Flo and Bain Finch and Jarrow Muslow, who have been recording this. We will have both a video and an audio record of today's show, and that will be available shortly. The video is on YouTube, on the Relay for Life of Second Life's YouTube channel, and of course on T1 Radio Archive we'll have the audio. Thank you all. Relay Wrap will be back in about 3 weeks when we talk with some of our cancer survivors about the psychological impact of hearing the words, "You have cancer." And I also want to thank Donna and Deanna, our associate producers, for putting this, helping us put all this together. Have a great rest of your day, and don't miss everything here. One last question. Real quick, Xander, where do we find that URL for Fairlands Media again?
I will be happy to drop that into local chat, but it is fairlandsmedia.wordpress.com.
And that's it from the Fairlands. I am Trader Whiplash. Have a great rest of your week here at the Fantasy Fair.